The US Embassy in Georgia is deeply disturbed by the Georgian Dream Party's withdrawal from the April 19 agreement. The United States is deeply disturbed and exasperated by the unilateral decision of the Georgian Dream Party to withdraw from the April 19th agreement, a document established through 6 months of difficult but collaborative negotiations, and one that gives an urgently needed way forward for the Georgian people and their democracy. Georgian 115 MPs from at least 6 of 9 elected parties signed the agreement and pledged to work together in good faith to reduce the depolarization that is impeding Georgia's democratic progress. Washington is growing increasingly alarmed about repeated setbacks to Georgia's democratic future. This is just one citation from the statement.
The UK has expressed its concern after the Georgian Dream Party withdrew from an agreement made on April 19, which sought to end political deadlock. A functioning, stable democracy is an important prerequisite for Georgia's progress along its chosen path of Euro-Atlantic integration. Recent developments, including unrestrained attacks on journalists covering Tbilisi Pride on July the 5th, have raised doubts about Georgia's political trajectory. This is just one citation of the statement.
European Council President Charles Michel wrote on his Twitter page that he met Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili to discuss the political situation in Georgia and EU relations. Consultations in Georgia are starting. The 19 April agreement is the best way to advance a reform agenda. I call on all parties to put citizens' interests first, Charles Michel wrote on his Twitter page.
U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price and 7 senators of the Foreign Relations Committee on July 28 leveled criticisms against the ruling Georgian Dream Party for quitting the EU-brokered April 19 agreement. So, spokesperson Price argued the withdrawal undermines an agreed-upon way forward for the country through needed reforms and risks a return to political crisis. He called on all political parties to work together to advance Georgia's Euro-Atlantic integration. The bipartisan group of senators, Jean Shaheen, Ron Johnson, Jim Risch, Ben Cardin, Rob Portman, Chris Van Hollen, and John Barrasso, dubbed as disappointing the ruling party's decision to unilaterally walk away from the deal during a pivotal time for Georgia's democratic development.
And this is the Checkpoints. Hosted and co-authored by Elena Kvanchilashvili and myself, I'm Georgi Sakadze. We gathered here in the Forbes Georgia studio for our last program for this season to tell you more about business and economics. Let's try at least.
Yes, yes, in this country, quite tough. It is Sunday, 10 p.m. sharp, and this is the last program of the season, but it will be returning to your screens from September, hopefully with new ideas, new formats, and never-changing attitude to doing our job, giving you all the information about business and economics.
Definitely, Elena, and let's tell our viewers that today, for the last program of the season, we choose to talk about businesses alone, about the opportunities and sectors that show the growth and development potential, and that keep up with investor interest in them.
I think it's the best we could do for the last program of the season, Georgi, and let's start with snails then. I know it seems quite odd, to say the least, that snails gain a momentum in Georgia, but this is a tendency that we have been keeping our eye on for quite a while, I could say. Tatia Kakiashvili focused her attention on snail production in Georgia.
Yes, Elena, I have to agree with you on this, that investors get more and more interested in snail production in Georgia. The main arguments that we keep hearing from them is geographical climate of Georgia. Business tells us that the soil of Georgia is ideal for growing snails.
More so that Georgi, the Italian Confederation of Snails in the Caucasus, held a presentation for interested parties on July 25th to share knowledge and experience. Tatia Kakiashvili will tell us more.
In the last few years, interest in snail production in Georgia has grown. Business says that the reason for this is the geographical climate of Georgia, since the soil of Georgia is ideal for growing snails. In terms of sales, snail is a unique product because almost all of its parts are used. On the farm, for food, snail shells are also used in scraps and in general self-care products. Of particular note is the snail meat, which, according to employees in the field, has unique properties because it contains very little fat and a large amount of protein. Because of this, snail meat is a useful food for people with special diets. Snail eggs are also very popular in many cuisines. Mucus that is used in cosmetics is another benefit.
I started working in Georgia in 2018, studying the climate and soil of your country. Then we conducted training and now we have concrete results and have opened our branch. We call our business a self-renewing economy, and it was very important to get to this system. We used special technology and equipment to get the snail the right way, because our main goal is to treat living beings with respect. It is also important for us to transfer knowledge because the results achieved so far will reach other people interested in this field.
Carrasco is not the only company producing snails. The Confederation of Italian Snail Farmers in the Caucasus does the same. It follows the 45 years practice of its Italian partner, Senor Giovanni Avanina. Just a few days ago, the Confederation opened a snail farm of European standards in Semegrello, which created additional jobs in the region.
Snails breed in our farm under natural conditions. Consequently, the snail meat grown on the farm will be of very high quality because the snails grow on natural food. Apart from this benefit, as a business, our method is also financially profitable because there are practically no additional costs in raising snails. It is very important for me that this is an ecologically clean business, and I, as an experienced businessman, decided to contribute to this business both materially and in terms of my knowledge. So far, everything is going as planned.
In addition, the Confederation held a presentation for interested parties on July 25th to share knowledge and experience.
This presentation is important because in reality there is no knowledge in Georgia about the practice that we plan to popularize. There is no literature, no consultations. There are too many myths that motivate eager people who want to get involved in business, but in reality this information is not true. The goal of our confederation is to show Georgian society what our sector is and what it can offer to Georgia and our region in general.
Finally, and most importantly, several countries are actively interested in snails produced in Georgia. This product is exported to Italy, Spain, Greece, Russia, China, Indonesia, Japan, and United States of America.
The next will be our review of the furniture sector and industry. Furniture production is only a small part of Georgia's manufacturing sector. However, for the last few years, it has been permanently underscored by the government as the attractive sector for the investors. And if we look at official figures for the last decade, we can definitely see that the furniture production in Georgia has been growing.
Yes, Georgi, one interesting tendency that we can derive from a number of studies on this sector particularly is that in 2010-2013, the value of furniture export from Georgia was increasing, but starting from 2013, export value declined, and in 2014 it was 61% less compared to the previous year in USA dollars. Major importing countries has changed from 2016. In 2010-2015, 2014, main partner country was Kazakhstan, but from 2016, its part became insignificant, and the main part among Georgian furniture importing countries took Azerbaijan and Armenia, except for data from 2018, when EU countries' portion in total furniture export was 31.8%, but in monetary terms, it's still very small.
I hope after Elena's personal outlook, we can hear more finally about this industry in our video outlook that has been compiled by our senior reporter Anita Vaz.
Furniture production is not a leading manufacturing industry in Georgia. According to official data, the share of its output and the total output of the manufacturing industry in 2019 only amounted to 1.8%, or 183.1 million lari. However, the state has named the furniture industry as one of the attractive ones for investors in the region over the past few years. The furniture industry has also been named as attractive one in the 2019 Investment Climate and Opportunities Review of Enterprise Georgia. Most of furniture companies in Georgia are still small and medium-sized. In terms of revenue, in 2019, the top 5 companies in the furniture industry were as follows: Yuski with 22,457,000 lari, Laboratory My House with 21,012,685 lari, Embawood with 12,708,983 lari, Tao with 10,663,018 lari, and Embatrade with 10,029,976 lari. A large part of the furniture industry consists of imported goods, the rate of which is growing from year to year. Foreign trade data shows that the furniture export market is not stable. The leading trading partner countries change every year. The volume of exports to EU countries is also small. The top 3 countries from which furniture is imported are Turkey, China, and Italy. The results of the research of furniture industry show that although more than half of the furniture presented in Georgia is imported, the export data is quite impressive. In 2019, furniture worth $1.7 million was exported from the country. In the second quarter of 2021, both import-dependent and local furniture companies started selling their products. Despite the reduced demand, this year's sales show positive dynamics. Homemade is a fully Georgian company with its production. Their representatives don't say much about 2020 because last year turned out to be extremely tough. Switching to online sales last year proved to be a rather difficult task for them. The furniture house notes that as demands increase in 2021, the opening of the HoReCa sector has especially helped businesses. Due to the increase in prices for raw materials, they had to adjust the price of their products by about 30 to 40%.
We depend on wood, metal and other materials. Unfortunately, our product prices have increased a lot. We try not to increase prices. We already have low prices since we produce in Georgia. We want our products to be affordable so that all customers can buy our furniture, but unfortunately we had to increase prices this year.
The Laboratory My House, which was in the top 5 in terms of revenue in 2019, notes that the dynamics of 2021 are positive compared to those of 2020. Mobility is reduced, though they have maintained the number of loyal users. At this stage, the business is facing problems such as complicated logistics, lari exchange rate, and customer segmentation.
This crisis first hit the lowest class. People who have lost their jobs do not have enough income and have other priorities to take care of in life, such as food, medicine, and so on. We had problems because of Georgian lari exchange rate. Our brand imported all of its products from Japan, Brazil, and all over Europe and Asia as well. The change in Georgian lari exchange rate primarily affects prices. The lari has depreciated about 30% in recent years. This is a big issue. Our logistics costs also increased due to global crisis.
Ashley Home Store, which provides products imported from the United States, says that they have been able to maintain market positions over the past 2 years. Apparently, the demand for home furniture has increased. Distinctively good results have been obtained as a result of the development of e-commerce business. The demand for American furniture is really growing. We have also conducted research on pandemic-induced changes. Despite all the restrictions that were imposed on the furniture industry in March 2020, people adapted easily because our website, the online platform, was quite sophisticated. We have always paid a lot of attention to digital commerce, so it was relatively easy for our customers to switch to online shopping. At the request of the state, the German International Development Fund has studied the Georgian furniture industry and its export opportunities. Unfortunately, the document is not publicly available. However, the fact that the furniture sector has development prospects and potential for export is also evidenced by the interest of the state and donor organizations. It's difficult to talk about furniture exports because so far, as explained by the manufacturers themselves, even the local market cannot be satisfied, and export volumes are quite small.
When I mentioned documents and studies on the sector, Georgi, one of them comes from Enterprise Georgia, namely in the document Review of Investment Climate and Opportunities issued by Enterprise Georgia, the furniture industry was named as one of the attractive sectors for investment. Most of the furniture producers in Georgia fall under the category of SMEs, small and medium enterprises, so it seems that developing this sector might be one of the focuses of the post-pandemic development agenda. Our producer, Anna Lapiashvili, helped us with the commentary from Enterprise Georgia, which we can now offer to our viewers and followers.
So as Enterprise Georgia, we have a few directions in our portfolio, one of them being access to finance for different sectors, and the other one being export support for different sectors. One of the sectors that we orient on is furniture manufacturing in Georgia. We support them through access to finance mechanisms, and we already have over 38 different beneficiaries in this regard. And also in the micro grant segment where we support micro enterprises, we also have over 200 enterprises which also focus on furniture direction. For export purposes, we were quite active before the pandemic to support this type of companies, especially in international exhibitions. We're looking at them in terms of supporting participation in international exhibitions. We participated in 2 different exhibitions over this past 2 years in 2018 and 2019. And with this, we also held a local design for Georgian producers to showcase what they could do in furniture manufacturing. Currently, these directions are also included in our access to finance programs, and we are additionally launching a new program to support this sector even more. So this will be focusing on additional access to finance mechanisms, including collateral guarantees, including co-financing of loans, and including grants at the same time. So this sector will additionally be prioritized to support this sector even more than it currently is. We already have a furniture cluster which exists in the country today, so this is a good development initiative, of course. We're also orienting on the local companies being somewhat of a substitute for imported products. And again, for particular sectors and particular directions within the furniture sector, which is such as component manufacturing for some of the furniture products, we actually have additional potential in terms of attracting investors into the country as well. So this could be an additional advantage and additional growth point for Georgia.
Another business that we want to focus your attention on is gallery business. Yes, paintings and galleries. Team of our reporters is Nini Longurashvili and Madonna Gasanova talked to Baya Gallery and tried to identify the most demanded and expensive paintings of the Georgian artists. Georgian artists have had their say on the international market long ago, and we can definitely say that the global art world knows their works very closely. Gallerist Bayat Ikoridze was our guide through the top 10 Georgian painters and their artworks that are valued in millions. This top 10 includes those painters as well who are contemporary, who live by our sides, and while we are presenting this teamwork in the checkpoints, might be working hard this very minute, creating a masterpiece that becomes a bestseller at Sotheby's or other prominent auction and gains millions. Together with all of this, we also highlight some challenges that this creative industry has on the way to popularizing Georgian artworks even more on the global markets. Okay, now this is all from me. The rest will be told by Nini Longurashvili and Madonna Gasanova in the checkpoints.
Georgian art market counts only 30 years. Consequently, the top 10 of the most expensive Georgian artists were compiled based on the trade results of international auctions. The top 10 of the most expensive Georgian painters are as follows.
Number 1 is Niko Pirosmani's painting, Georgian woman wearing a lichaki, sold in 2018 for $2,800,000. It's not surprising that Kirill Zdanevich follows Pirosmani. Zdanevich's artwork Tukani was sold for $2,500,000. The third is Lado Gudiashvili with $1,500,000 for his work by the Black Stream. David Kakabadze is fourth in the ranking with $100,000 at international auctions. Number 5 is Merapa Ramishwili. His paintings has been traded on international auctions for almost 6 years. The highest cost for his work has reached $80,000. It's noteworthy that the cost of Abramishvili's works in Georgia is much higher. Natalia Yankoshvili is 6th in the list. Her works varies from $50,000 to $90,000. I really regret to see the price of prominent Georgian artist Eleni Akhlidiani. The figure for Akhlidiani's works varies from $50,000 to $100,000 in Georgia. Artworks of modern Georgian artist Nini Komordebadze, which is 8th in our ranking, started to be selling at Philip's auction 2 years ago. The cost of her works is between $20,000 to $31,000. Alexander Banzeladze is closing the ranking.
The Georgian art market does not have an appropriate infrastructure, which means that museum purchases as well as corporate purchases determine the price index of the artist. Private collections no longer exist. Most importantly, no international auctions are held in Georgia, which is why Georgia does not publish annual statistics. Nevertheless, Georgian works are scattered in many countries of the world. This is how Georgian artists get known.
Georgian artists are quite popular abroad. Some foreigners are having this collection of Georgian painters, those Georgians that are established abroad and selling works at place. These artists also frequently come to Georgia and their paintings are purchased by local collectors. Both investment purpose and love of art are main contributors for the purchase of paintings. In case of the second purpose, the cost of the work is less important for us, and they only choose works pursuant to their taste.
If we look at art as an investment, one shall bear in mind that the work of art changes over time as it is affected by climate and other factors. At the same time, it is necessary to know the regulations that make a work of art a product of investment. These factors can include how many paintings the artist has painted, how many works the artist has done on the same topic, how the artist's creativity has developed, and etc. Most importantly, one has to be sure of the originality of the work. The pandemic period also results in a price change. However, it did turn out to be good for the art market.
Early stages of the pandemic were quite difficult for our sectors, since the galleries were closed for quite a long time. Online platforms has brought real relief to us. For many people, art has become a space of psychological survival during such a difficult period as pandemic. Consequently, too many collectors appeared during the pandemic. However, for many artists, pandemic has been quite a difficult time. Art sector received important support from governments in many countries, and witnessing more support towards culture in Georgia would be appreciated.
Art has a therapeutic function in times of crisis, so the demand for artworks at such times is always growing. However, the infrastructure needs to be developed. Gallery owners are asking for a little more attention to the cultural sector.
This is not the only contribution from this team of reporters to the last program of the season. Here comes another very interesting story, and it's about tourism, but very specific tourism. Judge for yourselves. Bird-watching tourism, or evi-tourism, which refers to travel where the main purpose is to observe birds in their natural habitat, is growing rapidly all over the world. Globally, around 3 million international trips are dedicated to bird watching every year. year. This niche tourism is estimated as one of the most highly profitable. In addition, the expectation is that this niche market will recover relatively fast when COVID-19 restrictions decrease. Considering all this, we took an interest into this tourism direction in Georgia, and we're glad to find out that foreign tourists even have their must-see list in Georgia, which is known as Caucasian Big Five. The number of bird watchers in Georgia has increased tenfold during recent decades. However, like in other countries, the lack of knowledgeable guides and poaching remains the main challenge of this niche tourism in Georgia.
Georgia is a home of around 400 species of birds, and many tourists, especially from Europe, travel here for one particular reason: to watch the birds. Moreover, there is a so-called Big Five of Caucasian birds, which is must-see among foreign birdwatchers traveling to Georgia.
We have these endemic birds, which is Caucasian black grouse, Caucasian snowcock, Guldenstadt's redstart, great rosefinch, and mountain chiffchaff. These birds are rare birds in general and can be seen alongside the Caucasus mountains. So Georgia is one of the best options to go and to find these birds.
Rajapashvili is involved in birdwatching tourism from 2004. In his words, since that time, the number of tourists traveling to Georgia for that particular reason has increased tenfold. In addition, he emphasized that birdwatching generates much more to the economy than other directions of tourism.
This tourism is for middle income or rich people. In general, it is quite expensive to compare to other tours like cultural tours. So they are quite highly spenders. This is one, and another is very often we stay in rural places, in places where people don't get many customers anyway. So it's more like where it's working very well for like regional level. So like I'm sure that it will raise some cash flow from these people, yeah, who are going and staying there. So it's, yeah, exactly, I don't have any figures to tell, but I can say that since 2004, at least we are getting 10 times more people than we used to.
Similar to the other countries that are popular with birdwatching, the main challenges faced by birding in Georgia is the lack of qualified guides and poaching. If we don't maintain the birds' population in high number, we will not manage to attract tourists visiting Georgia for birding, says Natia Javahishvili, director at Sabugo.
Guides are a big problem, really, because people don't become interested in bird watching. And when bird watchers come to Georgia, they do not want to see only, they usually want to see some specific birds that they already know that it's in Georgia, so I come here to see this bird, and the guide should be able to find the bird for the tour and to show it, to find it with scope or with eye or binocular, but should be able to have well-developed birdwatching skills like eye sighting or ears, so that they can hear some songs and they can say, okay, now we are following the bird song and we can find it. If we do not maintain the birds populations in a high numbers, this will become even more and more difficult to bring tourists and to find the bird, because that's the only purpose they come for. And that's the really important thing. So if poaching is continued in the same level, if habitat destruction has the same is continued in a same direction, and if there are no enough places for birds to sing, of course this will decrease the birds in the number, and in the end we will not have anything to show the tourists.
And towards the end of our program, we have an exclusive interview with the WHO Country Office Director in Georgia, Silvio Domente. As I remember, this time the focus of your interview was more on structural challenges that more broadly the health system in Georgia has. Am I right?
Totally right, Georgi. This time, Silviu Domente will be focusing on the recent WHO report, which, among other things, recommends to regulate prices on medicine in Georgia. The reason for that is the financial burden that this component creates to the individuals and households, since the share of out-of-pocket payments is the highest on medicine. Of course, we challenged Mr. Domente with different points of view and analysis, and our readers and followers can now follow this part of the exclusive interview in detail as well. What are some structural challenges that WHO sees in this system and is advising the government on this?
WHO is promoting very actively the principle of universal health coverage. And when we say universal health coverage, to put it simple, it means that people need to have access to services in the volume they need, at the time they need, at the place they need. Those services should be of high quality, and most important is people should not experience this financial hardship from accessing services, and people should not get impoverished from accessing health services. These are the main principles, and the whole structure and the whole organization of healthcare should follow these goals. I mean, people need access to services they need. Those services should be of high quality, and people should not experience financial hardship. So that's why we looked particularly in this aspect of financial hardship, because it's very, very important. And we know that this financial hardship usually is caused by the out-of-pocket payments, that people have to pay for services out of pocket in addition to what the state can cover for them. And this usually, when out-of-pocket payments are very high, then people this can lead to so-called catastrophic payments for health services and to impoverishing expenditures for health services. So evidence shows that the lower the state allocations for the health sector, the higher the out-of-pocket payments. So, and unfortunately, Georgia still allocates quite a modest amount for health. This has increased, of course, and you know that since 2013, Georgia introduces universal health care program. So the state allocations for health have increased significantly. This has led to improving access to health services. So from 20% of people accessing health services previously, now almost everybody has access to this universal health care program.
For the last 6 years, there hasn't been a year when universal health care doesn't need additional spending for the budget. It is always breaching the threshold that it has in the state budget.
That was exactly my point, because Georgia has increased budgetary allocations for health, but they are still very low. So now this is around 2.8% of GDP paid for health, while in the whole European region, the average is 4.9, almost 5%. And when I say European region, it's not European Union, but European region of WHO, which is 53 member states, including former Soviet Union, Central Asia, and so on. And if we look into the EU, then this is around 7% of budgetary allocations go for health. So if we compare with 2.8%, it's very modest. And actually, Georgia is allocating less for health among the countries that allocate least for health. This is of course a concern, and since few years we are promoting this increasing budgetary allocation for health. It's important, but simply increasing allocation, of course,
that was my next question,
will not solve all the problems, because it's important how you allocate, where you allocate those services, and how you design these services, because whatever you allocate, there will always be like co-payments for different services. So nobody, no country in Europe now can fully cover 100% all the services. There are always co-payments, and there are always out-of-pocket payments, but it depends how high these out-of-pocket payments and what is the impact on household budgets. This is the problem, because when out-of-pocket payments are low, and when it doesn't have a strong impact, a severe impact on household budget, they are fine and they are acceptable. And in most of the countries, these out-of-pocket payments are around 15%, maximum to 30%, which we in WHO consider as a threshold. So in Georgia, these out-of-pocket payments reached 48% now, which is again one of the highest in the region. And this is, of course, an issue of concern. And we did this study, and we saw that despite this universal healthcare program, despite increased allocation and increased access to services, still out-of-pocket payments have increased. The share of out-of-pocket payments in the household budget has increased from 7 to 9%. So people pay more out-of-pocket for services. And on the other hand, 7% of the households, they have these impoverishing payments, and 17% catastrophic payments for their household budget. So this is an issue of concern.
The biggest share of these out-of-pocket payments is medicine, right? And that's why your focus goes on medicine and medicine prices.
That's right. When we look at those catastrophic payments, so almost 70% of those out-of-pocket payments, catastrophic payments, they go for medicines. And if we divide the population in quintiles, so the poorest quintile pays even more. The poorest quintiles pay out of 90% for catastrophic payments for medicines. In the richest quintiles, it's much less, 24%, and so on.
Speaking of Georgia's context, when we see that majority of medicine is imported into the country, the first thing that comes to mind is even more liberalizing the rules and restrictions on imports, so that helps to lower the prices. But I haven't read any of that in the last report of WHO. You are stressing on regulating prices directly. Why is that choice, and how will that work?
This is a good practice all over the world and in the whole region. So the evidence shows that when people regulate better the pharmaceutical market and the prices of medicines, this leads to better financial protection, because at the end this leads to better prices of medicines. At the end, this leads to better quality of medicines, and many other aspects. So here it's not only price regulations alone. Of course, price regulation is very important, and here in Georgia, so I must say that the prices are not regulated. They are liberal, as you yes. mentioned, but this doesn't help to reduce them, because Georgia is a small market and it's not always possible. Then Georgia is a country that is using increasingly brand names, and the generics medicines are in very low quantities on the market, and they are not popular both among doctors and population. So this is another issue. Then the issue of quality of medicine, quality assurance, but then also how people get reimbursement for medicines, all these schemes, how much is people get reimbursed from the medicines that are prescribed. So, because in different countries we have different schemes, and this is also another issue. It's not only about prices, but also many other aspects. I want to mention this. And the first thing we recommend is, of course, to have a framework legislation, a new legislation in the area of pharmaceuticals that will open the possibilities to better regulate prices, to better regulate quality, access to medicines, and so on. And the second direction is how to reimburse these medicines, and what medicines to include in the package of services to be reimbursed by the state. And here, first of all,
so that they are included into the universal healthcare.
And we have here to look at the burden of disease, because in Georgia 95% of mortality is caused by non-communicable disease. So it means that we have to include in the package of services more medicines for chronic diseases, non-communicable diseases, like for hypertension, for diabetes, for asthma, and so on. And this is very important step. And then how to reimburse, how people to get reimbursed, because for the time being, so there is a percentage payment for the medicines that people have to pay out of pocket, and there is no cap how much people can pay out of pocket during the year. So there are no limits. People can pay, and then to regulate and the volume of services provided, the prescription of medicines, and so on.
Because if the focus is only on regulating prices, here I see the risk that some medicine might not be available on the market, and that's it. Once again, because most of it are imported, and you know that lari depreciation is a very strong factor here. Also, if we just artificially lower the price, some medicine might vanish.
These are, yes, the usual arguments of the pharma industry, and there is some truth in that. In some cases, so some big pharmaceuticals companies, they can withdraw from the market, but the practice has shown that there is never an empty place in the market. If any producer withdraw from the market, somebody else will come back. This is for sure. So we have seen this everywhere. It depends again on the state and how this is regulated and how this market is opened.
Well, such was the last show of the season. The checkpoints will come back from September.
Till then, and you know what to do. Follow us on bm.g and forbes.g. These websites are active 24/7.
You heard it. Take care and see you in September.
Till autumn then.